good.
My name is Kade. I work at the Victorian National Parks Association. It's a not-for-profit that is about using science for advocacy. So it's science-based conservation, and my role is basically marine citizen science and getting people out there. What I'm talking about today is very much a nuts and bolts kind of project that was run. It was part of the Port Phillip Bay grant, which is why the Victorian State Government logo is there, sponsored by the Victorian State Government. And part of it was around this thing, weather. It's something we all have to deal with, especially when we're doing work outdoors. And I'm sure, is there anyone here who has ran every single event that they've organised? No. So it's something we've come up against. So in the marine environment, you've got this. Wind is the first one. So what's important is the direction, the strength in the previous days. I actually had an experiment set up underneath that pier. That section of pier floated away and ended up on the beach. And that's in Port Phillip Bay. So that's, the first thing we've got to consider, the wind, and there's three things to consider about that. Then we've got the rain. As you might see, this was put together last night. That was the thing that came through. But when it comes to the water, you've got the rain on the day, so that's obviously an issue when you're doing stuff on the day and you're out there. The other is the previous 24 hours, particularly for sort of enclosed bays. There was someone talking before about dog poo washing into stormwaters, high phosphorus levels. E. coli can be an issue, so you can't run events in the water when you have that. But then you have things like major floods or major rain events. So that could have been weeks before, but you're still feeling the impact of that at the time. So these are all things that you're hoping are lining up for you. But then wait, there's more. Then often we're doing stuff with tides. So you've got to get that tide height right. Again, I obviously did this last night because you can see where that blue line is. Here's the tides that I want. Look at when they're occurring. They're all bloody midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So getting them to line up as well. So you're balancing all these things, and then if you get all this right, you can turn up to the location and you're greeted with that. So we're going to get in the water. And you can't see your hand in front of your face. So that's the visibility. So that's 9 things that I'm trying to balance and hope and cross my fingers it's going to be right when it comes to organising an event. So, I had an idea. And I got money for the idea. So that was all right. Part of it is when it comes to weather, I've been surfing all my life. I have been watching weather. I constantly, people use it as small talk. It's not small talk, it's very important to me. I know what the winds are doing in advance. I know tides, swell conditions. I live down on Malau, which is Phillip Island, on Bunurong land. I'm surrounded by water, so there's always somewhere to go for a surf, so I'm always paying attention of it. I reckon about a week out, 6 to 7 days out, you've got a feel for what it's going to be like next week. And that's using, Bureau of Meteorology. There's all these things out there. If you want to know about them, come and talk to me. I can tell you how to go about getting a good feel for what the weather's going to be like. And I'm like, how about instead of going, I hope the weather's great in 3 weeks, the weather's, you block out a week, the weather's going to be good on Wednesday, let's go. And on the Thursday or the Friday before, you're like, blitz, let's just get that message out there. We're going, and we're going because the weather's good. What's going to happen? Who's going to turn up? Is it going to be a success? Is it something we can actually feasibly do? So we did a survey. Everyone does a survey. And the survey was done to people that have already engaged with us. So it's like email and Facebook. So it's people that are on our mailing list or they're sort of involved with the organisation in some way, shape or form. And fortunate enough to get enough respondents. I always look at just 100 because then you can use percentage and it makes storytelling so much easier. 100 respondents in there. And we gave away a book. So that kind of helped. The people that we're sort of sending it to, snorkelers, underwater divers, and then people who sort of go rock pool rambling. So people who spend their time on the coast. Then we collected a whole lot of other data. If you're interested in that, come and talk to me. If there's stuff that I've missed, either ask a question or come and talk to me sort of after. There's plenty to go on with. So simple questions. What are your preferred days to volunteer? Any guesses as to what it's going to be? Yeah. So during the week, almost 20%. Tuesdays, surprisingly more than the other days. And then Friday, of course. Okay, Saturday, Sunday. But then the most important question was asked. It varies. So we all know things have changed, the way that we work, the way that we commute to work, the way that we go to work, what's going on. And I think I'm doing well. And that was a really important thing to ask. It's like, okay, are our lives that stable now? And it's like, no, they're not. And particularly if you're like me, I go surfing in the middle of the day. We've got our Slack channel or whatever. It's like, gone for a surf, back in 2 hours. Because that is the weather window to go out. But we all kind of, not all of us, but quite a few of us operate like that. So then the other question to ask is like, would you consider attending an event like outside of the weekend? Because I'm not sure about you, I work during the week, but most of my events are on weekends. I've got a family, I like to go surfing, I like to do a whole lot of stuff. I can run my events during the work when I'm meant to be working and have some more weekends to myself. Like, bonus for me, bonus for my mental health, bonus for everyone else sort of involved. So there's an appetite, and this is, this is what confirmation bias, we've been talking about that earlier. Like, surely these people are annoyed with having events cancelled. And why was it cancelled? 95.1%, the weather. Like, it's not a surprise, it's kind of asking the obvious, but it's always good to have stats because we're scientists and that's what we operate on, it's sort of our fuel. This is the other one, like how much notice do you need? It's like, because I'm like 6-7 days. I take this 7 to 9 days as 7 days, so it means that only 30% want more, like that 10 sort of days, but quite a few people are willing to be like, cool, that's enough, that's all the notice I need to actually get out there and be involved. And then, this one was probably more, I found quite fascinating, in that like only 15% of people won't travel more than 30 minutes to get to something. And some people will happily travel over an hour and a half to do something that may only last for an hour or 2 hours. So there's that amazing amount of resource and time that they're putting in. So they're investing that in it. And it's like, well, why shouldn't we do it when the weather's good? If they're going to invest that time to drive an hour and a half to come to a spot, give them the best damn experience they can, then they're going to come back, they're going to keep on going. Really easy to do. So, results. We ran 18 free events. This was quite cool, so they're two of the rangers from Bunurong Sea Country. They came, that's buckets of an introduced invasive species of seaweed. So we did what's called underwater weeding, and I got them to pose as hunters to collect. And one of the most interesting things to come out of that is you need a permit to do this. And you have to specify what location and what you're doing. And he came along and he's like, I just wanted to see what was going on. And he's like, this is something we could do as the Bunurong Land Corp. And he's like, with putting a location, he's like, how about I just write Bunurong Sea Country? And I'm like, oh, done. Like, no government agency is going to turn you down for that. So they've now got a permit to do this themselves. So we provided 250 opportunities. And by that, I meant there was 250 spaces for people to book to come on these things with this like quick turnaround. So, we didn't get a few registrations on some, but we got a lot. 197, the thing was 86% turnout. Now, I'm not sure about you, and I was just chatting to someone about it previously. We have something like a 25 to 40% drop-off rate for free events. And we find that earlier that we put them out, if you put out something a month to 6 weeks ahead, that drop-off rate's even higher, because a month out, people are like, cool, I'll go. Gets close to the date, they're like, it was free, doesn't matter, and done. So it's been something that's quite hard, and particularly with in-water stuff, you can only support a certain amount of people. So you're under the assumption they're going to turn up. If they don't, it means that you don't have as many people there, and it's quite a lot of resources go into it. So why can people turn up? They've turned up. What is it that allows them to do that? Any guesses as to what it's going to be? Because most people are going, retired. That's most of our volunteers, people who have retired. But it's that and the flexible hours. So that's 25%. I just couldn't be bothered typing the percentage when I did this. That's 25% of respondents. That was the reason. So 50% is like retired and people have flexible hours, so they work around it. We've got shift work. We've got students that can turn up. People working part-time, so it just happened to be. It was a good time. People who aren't working, and people who actually took leave. They're just like, hey, he's told me the weather's going to be good. This is happening. I'm just going to take a day off work. I'd rather do that than go to work today, which was, I'm on board. So, quick lessons, be a good scout, and that, be prepared. So have all your comms ready, have everything sitting there weeks out. Because once that weather is like ready to go, particularly if you work in a small organisation like ours where everyone is working part-time, trying to get an email out quickly is just hell. So if you have all that ready where someone can press a button, bang, you're out. Improves inclusivity. We forget about all the people who work on weekends that can't come to our events. There are so many people that work at these different times. Students in particular, that's how they stay alive, is often by working on weekends. So if you can do something during the week and they're like, I'll skip school and go to that, fantastic. It gives them an option. And I mean university students, not high school students, primary school. Students and families, holidays, like that's an obvious one. If you do stuff during university holidays, you'll get university students turning up. And check, because they vary. Not all universities have decided to follow the same format, so you've got to be on top of that. And people will change their plans for good conditions. It's so many people who are just like, I changed my work day. I saw it was going to be good, decided not to work on that, and I come. If you can guarantee that it's going to be a good experience, people are like, hell yeah, I'll do that. People hang around for so long after an event on a good day. Like, I've run events when the weather's terrible, it's like, bang, we're gone. But I did a thing, and I'll show you a photo, that I didn't expect people to hang around, and people were going for a hell of a long time afterwards. And experiment with novel times. So I did something 7:30 on a Sunday morning when everyone's going to church. And we had 65 people turn up to go looking for sea slugs under a bridge in San Remo in the wind and rain. I did something last Friday, which was at 7:30 at night on a Friday night when people are usually, oh, thank God it's the weekend, I can relax. And we got over 50 people out on the rock platform with torches looking for sea slugs again. So experiment with your times. It takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of stuff, but starting to play with it more, I feel like I'm just testing people's patience by doing things at really odd times. But what you'll find is it means that people who can't make all this other stuff can often make that. And we talk about being inclusive and diversity and all this sort of stuff, but we don't necessarily do it with the times that we run events. So that's a really good way to do it. And I'll just leave on that. Thank you. I think I got all the messages I wanted.
You did a great job. That was... we have a couple of minutes for questions. Well done. Anyone got any questions?
Oh, damn, I thought I covered everything.
So you said that you were testing the patience of some of your participants. How many of your participants were actually repeat participants? They got into the wild trip with you?
I would say generally we get about 10 to 25% are sort of repeat. And then there's just new people. Varies by event, because we run a few different events. So one is like banging on about sea slugs, these ones, counting fish, removing like underwater weeding, so removing invasive species, and then there's some restoration stuff as well. It varied by event, but it's about 75% were sort of new people coming through. And those that continue to return, we're excited to be doing stuff at different times.
Yeah.
Particularly the night time, but that people, we're on the rock platform till midnight. So couldn't get rid of them. Yeah.
Thanks. How would you describe minimal faff, and how do you minimise the faff?
I think it's the whole journey. So from registration through, you're not, like you register, because there's a short lead up time, once you register, you're like, cool, it's happening, this is the date, here's all the stuff you need to know, it's going on. So there's not the just checking in that you want to come, prepare this, do that, it's like one email, it's happening here, and then when you get, and I think it's more around running the events too, so when you get there, just have everything set up and ready to go, and by the time they get there, all they need to do is like put their wetsuit on or sort of go out, and the introduction, I try to keep my intros under 5 minutes, and then I have the conversations, because it's a bit hard with 60 to 80 people, but generally it's like 10 to 20 people. Then you have your conversations with people and you sort of have that deeper reason as to why you're there, and you're not trying to espouse all that stuff at the beginning, you're sort of doing it as you go through. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.